Be honest with yourself for a moment. How many times have you caught your mind drifting, whether you're at work, at school, on the bus, and suddenly, you're daydreaming about sex? Maybe it's with someone you know. Maybe it's with someone you once loved. Or maybe, it's just a fantasy your brain cooked up out of nowhere. And then you snap back, almost embarrassed, wondering, why am I thinking like this? You're not alone. In fact, this happens to almost everyone, men and women, young and old. Today, I want us to talk about it, not in a shallow way, but in a deep, emotional, real way. Because these thoughts reveal something important about us, our desires, our loneliness, our hopes, and even our fears. Part 1. Normalizing the experience. First, let's take the shame out of it. Thinking about sex is part of being human. Our brains are wired with desire. Some people daydream about intimacy a few times a week, others a few times a day. That doesn't mean you're broken, dirty, or addicted. It means you're alive. It means your brain is working exactly the way it's supposed to. But here's the truth, these daydreams aren't always about sex itself. Most of the time, they're about what sex represents: connection, love, being wanted, being touched, being seen. That's why people who are lonely often experience these daydreams more intensely. Because the fantasy is not only about physical pleasure, but also about filling an emotional need. Part 2. Why we daydream so much. Now, let's talk about the why. Why do some of us find ourselves drifting into these thoughts so often? Science has a few answers. Biology, hormones like dopamine and testosterone, and even stress levels, influence how often sexual thoughts come up. Psychology, sometimes our minds use these fantasies as an escape. Maybe you're stressed at work, bored in class, or overwhelmed by life, and your brain gives you a mini vacation through fantasy. Unmet needs. If you feel disconnected from your partner, or if you don't have one, your imagination steps in to give you what reality isn't offering right now. And that's not something to be ashamed of, it's your brain's way of saying, I want to feel alive. I want to feel close to someone. Part 3. The double-edged sword. But here's where we need to pause. Because like anything in life, it can become too much. If daydreaming starts replacing reality, if you find yourself preferring fantasies over building real connections, that's when it becomes a prison instead of a release. Ask yourself, am I using these thoughts as inspiration, or am I using them as an escape? If it's the second, maybe it's time to look deeper. What am I running away from? What am I missing in my life that I keep looking for in my imagination? Part 4. How it affects relationships. For those in relationships, these daydreams can feel confusing. You might wonder, if I think about someone else, does that mean I don't love my partner? The truth is, no, it doesn't automatically mean that. Most people in healthy relationships still experience sexual daydreams about others. But what matters is whether you choose to build your intimacy in reality, not just in fantasy. On the flip side, if you're single, these daydreams might feel bittersweet. You crave closeness, but you also know the fantasy won't hug you at night. It won't listen to your struggles. It won't hold your hand when life gets tough. And that can feel painful. But recognizing that pain is powerful, it tells you you're ready for more than daydreams. You're ready for real love, real intimacy, real connection. Part 5. Turning fantasy into fuel. So, here's the invitation: instead of shaming yourself for these thoughts, use them as a guide. Your daydreams are like a compass, pointing to what you deeply desire. Maybe it's passion. Maybe it's safety. Maybe it's affection. Don't just stop at the fantasy, ask yourself, how can I create this in my real life? If your fantasies are about feeling attractive, start by showing up for yourself, dress in a way that makes you feel confident, take care of your health, remind yourself that you are worthy. If your fantasies are about closeness, practice vulnerability. Tell someone how you really feel. Call a friend. Build trust in small ways. If your fantasies are about passion, then pursue hobbies, dreams, and people who light a fire in you. Passion doesn't only belong in the bedroom, it belongs in the way you live your life. Part 6, a heartfelt message. I want you to know something, there is nothing wrong with you. Whether you're 18 or 80, whether you're a man or a woman, whether you're single or in a relationship, these thoughts are part of the human experience. What matters most is not the daydream itself, but what you do when you come back from it. Do you use it to escape? Or do you use it as a reminder of the love and passion you want to create in reality? Life is too short to live only in your imagination. The people who change their lives are the ones who take the courage to step out of their head and into their heart. So, here's my challenge to you. The next time you catch yourself drifting into a sexual daydream, don't shame yourself. Instead, pause and ask, what am I really longing for? And how can I take one small step today to bring that into my real life? And if this message spoke to you, don't just keep it to yourself, share it with someone who might need to hear it. Because you never know whose life you might change with a single conversation. So here's my challenge to you. The next time you catch yourself drifting into a sexual daydream, don't shame yourself. Instead, pause and ask, what am I really longing for? And how can I take one small step today to bring that into my real life? And if this message spoke to you, don't just keep it to yourself, share it with someone who might need to hear it. Because you never know whose life you might change with a single conversation. This is what Grind and Grow is all about, turning everyday struggles into fuel for growth, resilience, and real change. So, if you're ready to not just dream, but to live fully, hit that like button, subscribe to Grind and Grow, and be part of a community that lifts each other higher. And in the comments, tell me this, when your mind drifts into daydreams, what do you think your heart is truly asking for?